First thing that we did is we went to Skyline and we got some chili. I was like in heaven. I'm pretty sure that Skyline will be at the marriage supper of the Lamb. I'm like 99.9% sure. I've been a lot of places now in the world and I've eaten a lot of food, and Skyline is amazing. So we missed y'all. We've really missed y'all. It is such a blessing to be home, and it's rather emotional just to see everybody, and I'm like overwhelmed. So if you'll give me a minute to compose myself, but wow, it's amazing what the Lord has done. It is amazing what the Lord has done. To think about, where we were maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and everything that has transpired, and the things that have happened. It is a real blessing to be able to come here and to give you an update on everything. But probably we'll want to do some sort of like question and answer. But I don't know if you want to do that now or if you want to save that for like social time. Depends on how you want to do, how you guys want to do it. But I know that there'll be questions because I have questions. We all have questions about stuff. But maybe right now, what I would like to do is I'd like to talk about the 3 ministry goals that we had, and then there's 3 things that I learned in Thailand. If you remember, I had that message when we went and visited Thailand, and I came back and I talked about that. Well, I've got 3 new things that I've learned, and things that I've relearned, and new things to share. So I want to do that. So, but to talk about, just to jump right into it and to get into the ministry update part, we had 3 ministry goals that we presented when we started. The first was master the Thai language. The second was to plant Baptist churches. And then the third is to train national pastors. And the idea was kind of to do it in that order. So we'd learn the language and then preach Thai in churches and then start churches. And then from there you'd have men that God would call and go. It hasn't exactly worked out that way. And so praise the Lord for this, because his wisdom, he's much smarter than I am, than we are, and he's able to work things together. And so as far as the language goes, I would not say that we have mastered the Thai language. I think that's probably going to take the rest of our lives to get to a point of mastery. I don't know if I've mastered the English language, to tell you the truth. So it's a rather lofty goal. But we can speak Thai. So if we want to get around and go and shop or call someone on the phone and call a plumber or something like that, we can do all of that. If you want to talk about really technical term like going to court or medical terms, or even getting into technical stuff like parts on vehicles and stuff like that, I probably don't know a lot of that vocab, but I can describe anything I need to. So I might not be able to tell you exactly what it is, like word for word direct translation from English into Thai, but I might not be able to tell you what something is like on a car, or like around the house. I might have to describe it anyway in English. You know what I'm saying? So we're able to get around and talk and do things like that. I do teach in Thai, completely 100% Thai. I do preach in Thai, completely 100%. I have been reading the Thai Bible here. I'll show you. This year was the first year where I started reading the Thai Bible. You guys can see all the little squiggly lines. Can you read that, brother? No. If you guys want to take a look at the Thai language, I have a Thai Bible here, and you can see all of the squiggly lines. But I have a daily Bible reading program, which I've done every year for years. You just read through the Bible one time through the Bible, and I translated it into Thai. And so this is in Thai. You can't see it, but so I've read the entire Bible in Thai now this year, and the way that works out is I do the Old Testament and then the entire Bible all the way through, and then the New Testament like in addition to that. So I've gotten through the whole thing, and then I'll have been through the New Testament like 2 or 3 times. And the Old Testament. And my next goal for the Bible part of it is, what I need to do is I need to sit down with the good old King James Bible in English and then the Thai version there, and I need to read them side by side, because Thai is sometimes backwards, upside down, not in the same order. Things are, the word order is nowhere near the same. So though I understand it and I know what it's saying, I wouldn't be able to tell you like, all right, which word here are they translating for propitiation? Or which word is translated justification? And the easy ones like faith and grace and things like that, usually those ones are good. But there's a lot of things that they won't, they won't use the same word for the same English word all the way through the Bible. So I need to sit down and I need to go through and do something like that. But so the Thai language, I'm very confident. I'm very confident. So if you guys want to come and visit and you need a tour guide, call me up. We can go anywhere. We can talk to anybody. We would have a great time. So the next thing then would be planting Baptist churches. So we've got, I don't know if you read my most recent letter, we have a really good prospect of a church plant about 100 kilometers. What is that, like 50 miles? Maybe about 50 miles from Chiang Mai, from the city that we live in. And what I've done is, through the leading of the Lord, I've actually got 5 different men that I'm working with that are Thai men. And some of these are pastors. Some of them are more like evangelists. And one of them pastors a church already. And then, no, 2 of them, I'm sorry. And so in any event, there's a whole nother village which basically has a couple of families in there that are interested in maybe starting a church. And so my kind of like goal, I guess you could say, or vision or methodology, I don't know what you want to call it, is that I don't want to go and start and pastor a church, okay? What I want to do is I want to encourage and equip others to come together, start as something maybe like a Bible study. I can go and teach the Bible study 1 or 2 times, but I want to find a leader in that group as quickly as possible and pass the work off onto him. And then I will kind of like move back into the shadows, and I'm just communicating with him, giving him tips, feeding him information, and doing that for as long as necessary, if it's 2 years, 3 years, whatever it takes, and then have that group grow on its own, and then train them to multiply themselves in the same way that I've just done that. And some people, they get a little scared with that idea because they think, oh, okay, these are babes in Christ, how in the world are they going to go out and evangelize and stuff like that? And, anybody can tell their testimony. Whether you've been saved for 5 minutes or you've been saved for 50 years, you can share your testimony, you can share about what Christ has done for you and things like that if you're really a Christian. And so I don't think that in terms of the timing, because the thing that we've got to understand about Thailand is there's no Christians there. It's not like America. There's less than 1% of the population are Christians. And so there's a huge possibility that you could spend your entire life and grow up your entire life in Thailand as a Thai person and never meet a Christian. Never even meet a Christian in your entire life. It's more probable that that will happen to you as a Thai person born in Thailand than that you would even meet or know a Christian or even meet a Christian at all. And so, time is not on our side when it comes to Thailand. So if we want to do the traditional model, we totally can. And I've got no problems with that. As a matter of fact, we work with Pastor Jack Green, who did just that. He started a church, Trinity Baptist Church. It is an established church there. And I'll teach the Sunday school in Thai. Then he preaches in English. And that's usually where we spend our time on Sunday mornings. And so that's where we're at. And that work is just continuing on, and we'll have visitors and we'll have people come and people go, it's just a normal church. But if I go and then start another church, that's great, but then we've got 2 churches. But if I can, say, get 5 men like what I've got and encourage them to go out and start churches and then turn that responsibility over, well, we may have 5 churches. And if those 5 churches all plant a church, then we have 10 churches. And if those 10 churches then within the next couple of years all go plant a church, and we got 20, you see what I'm saying? So, we can multiply the exposure of the gospel so much quicker using this methodology than we can if I just go and start a church and we've got 1 church and then we try to grow that church. Okay, we get to 100. That may take 15, 20 years. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with doing that. But if we want to reach 66 million people with the gospel, say, in our generation, we're going to have to get multiplying. We got to get moving. So as far as plant Baptist churches, that has kind of worked into being the last of the goals instead of the next goal, because I did a lot of study into this, and I decided that maybe encouraging the few Christians that are there to get out and go and evangelize, if you will, their friends and family, you know what I'm saying, has, I think, it will reap more benefit in the long term, in the short term and in the long term. So we've got that going. If you have any questions about that, think about those and talk to me about that, because this is I don't know if it's conventional or not conventional or whatever. It's it's not the normal method, I guess you can say, of how when you think of starting a church, because you think I'm the pastor, I go, I start, I teach them. We spend years, we labor, and then men are called up and they come up. And that's usually what we see. But in America, how many churches are within walking distance of here? And are those good, true churches? No, of course not. But I mean, how many are there? I mean, there's like a dozen or something around here. We just don't have that in Thailand. We don't have that. You got like you got a dozen churches in Chiang Mai, a city of 2 million people. I mean, and so it's so work needs to be done, and it needs to be multiplied if we're going to reach them in a generation. And one of the reasons why I think about a generation is because I think about the New Testament, right? In the New Testament, you have Jesus Christ. He came. There's 0 Christians. He's got 12 men, well, 11 or 12 if you want to count Matthias, and those 12 men turn the world upside down in one generation. And the Apostle Paul, all of the travels that he did, within one generation, you go from 0 Christians to the whole Roman Empire full of them, to the point where you get to the 2nd generation or 3rd, I don't remember, Justin Martyr or Tertullian, whoever it is, boasting about, look, man, we've got Christians everywhere. Christians are in every single institution in the Roman Empire. I mean, it just explodes. So there's no reason why that can't happen, is my point. In one generation, we can do that. So then, so that was churches, and then the men. I think I've kind of lumped this together. So we have not planted any churches. We've got one in the works, and I'm praying that this will start, if you will, be the beginning of the powder keg that's going to explode, that will turn into a bunch of other churches that we will train to evangelize to, so that they're churches that start churches. That's what we want to do. Like this church. It's a church that starts churches. We got so many ministries that go out and they go and start new things and do things like that. And so we want every church to have that mindset from the beginning, so that there's not just start a church and then it dies. And so the men, I'm very excited about the men. Got 5 men. One of them, Pone, has worked with me the most. He is a pastor of a church there in Thailand. They run about 20, 30 people. But he's the one who helped me learn Thai the most. So I absolutely love this. Every time that he's with me and people will compliment me on how good my Thai is, I'm telling them, well, you need to compliment him, but if I speak wrong, you got to blame you got to blame him too. So he kind of gets both sides of that, but I really appreciate him. And then we've got Caleb is another man, and he helps out a lot around Trinity Baptist Church. And then I've got 2 other men who are Yoy and O is his name, yes, O. You have to say it with a rising tone like his name's a question, right? And these are the guys that are the evangelists, and they've got areas all over the surrounding area that they just go and they preach the gospel, and they've been sending me pictures and videos. You should see the things that they've got going on. It's just amazing. And then there's one other gentleman who I can't remember. I said 5, right? Oh, yeah, and then Joshua is the last guy, not me, but another guy named Joshua, and he's a Bible teacher, and so we're working with him right now. He's covering for me at Trinity Baptist Church is what he's doing. He's teaching my Sunday school class in the Thai class, and so he speaks Thai along with some of the other languages. And so really excited about the things that are going on. We are going to have to kind of slow stuff down when we get back, because basically I was like, all right, guys, here's what I want you to do. Just go do whatever you want while I'm gone. Just go and get it. Just go out there and preach. Just go and shake the bushes. Just do stuff while I'm gone. And then when I get back, then we'll huddle and we'll see what's going on. And obviously with this sort of stuff and all the stuff that they're doing, it's a lot for me to have to even process, to figure out, okay, who's where, who are these people, what's this? I mean, we've had multiple professions of faith now. They said, people that are, getting saved, if you'll allow that terminology, that the Lord is saving and stuff. So that's a lot of follow-up on my part. I've got a lot of leads that I need to figure out and I need to follow up on. And I know, like, the first month when I get back to Thailand, I'm going to be so jet-lagged. And we are going to cook. I thought when we came over here back to America that we would freeze. And we did for a couple of days. But then, you know, I've lived in America for 38 years and I've lived in Thailand for 4 years, right? So adjusting back to America has been very easy. It's like riding a bicycle, right? And so the cold weather is, while cold, I'm like, oh, it's so nice to not sweat for a whole day. You know, you go a whole day and you don't sweat, or a whole week or something like that. It's like, oh man, and you can go outside, you're hot, you go outside, you can breathe in the cool air, and it's so refreshing. And so when we go back, you know, it's like 90s, it's gonna be like 90 every day, and then we're going into the hot season in Thailand, it'll be, you know, like 120 dry, really hot. So we'll have to get used to that again, and get used to the food, and get used to all of those things. So we'll have to kind of slow it down a little bit with the guys, but in terms of what I'm able to follow up with, but we'll figure that out, and the Lord will lead with that. And so those are basically it. So we've got churches that we're beginning. We will begin the church plant ministry. Basically, the first 4 years of us in Thailand, and then of course our deputation time before that has been 5-6 years now, almost, has been preparation. This has been entirely preparation. And we are ready to really hit the ground running. You know, I've got a team, if you will. I know the language well enough to be able to do anything and everything that is needed. And so now we just need some churches. We just need to start some more churches. And then we just need to go out and evangelize and just do the work of an evangelist and then see what the Lord does. I'm praying that this multiplication method or whatever bears fruit. If it doesn't, that's fine. We'll just you know, do it the traditional way, start churches, however the Lord leads. We'll figure it out as we go. But pray for that. Really pray. Pray that the Lord would be pleased to save souls in Thailand. If there's anything that if you ever think of us, don't pray for our needs, don't pray for our physical needs or anything like that. The Lord takes care of us. Pray for the souls of Thai people, because we need them. We need them to get saved, and then pray that they'll be soul winners too, that they'll reach their family and their friends. The Thai society, I don't want to go into this long because I'll share this in the future vision thing. The Thai society is incredibly familial beyond our understanding in America. You know, though we have families and we come to families, we're very individualistic. They are the total opposite. It's really weird how close-knit they are. So this can be used to, if you will, our advantage if we're smart with it, because almost most people who are Christians in Thailand were, if you will, led to the Lord by a family member. There's almost always a familial influence that happens, and it has to be there. So that's why if I go out and I talk to everybody and I'm say knocking doors, or I'm on the street corner, or we're handing out tracts, that's great. But it's not as effective as somebody's aunt talking to their niece and nephew, or talking to their sister, or talking to their mom, or they just have an inroad because of the culture. And so it's just, those are the things that we need. So pray for the Thai people, that the Lord would be pleased to save souls, because things will not happen in that country without the nationals both, first of all, being saved, the Lord saving them, and then from there, them taking that responsibility of taking the gospel to their own family members. We need to look at Thailand this way. This is the way that I always try to look at Thailand. There was a story that was told, and this was a story, I think, about India, and there were shoe salesmen. Maybe you've heard this before, right? There were two shoe salesmen that were sent to India back 100 years ago. And one shoe salesman wrote back and said, "Don't send any shoes. I'm coming home. Don't send anything. Nobody here wears shoes." And the second guy wrote a letter to his company, and he said, "Send me all the shoes you've got. Send me every single shoe you've got. Nobody here wears shoes." And so I want to be that second guy. I want to see it. Okay, there's no Christians here, but that means that there's so much potential for Christianity to explode, if you will, for people. You know, if just one person can really get on fire for the Lord can use them so much, because there's just no Christians. They could catch on fire and then they'll go out and they'll win 100 people to the Lord, and they can't. when you think about America, everybody is either a Christian already, or they think they're a Christian, or they know they don't want to be a Christian because it's our culture. We're already infused with that. So we're like gleaning here, right? We're just gleaning. We're trying to get the last little bits. It's seemingly in America, in different pockets, it can be different. But in Thailand, it's just open season, man. Open season. And so I'm really excited about that. All right, so let's get on to the last three things. Let's take a second. Are there any questions anybody wants to ask before I share the three things I learned in Thailand? Like Pastor Holt, do you have anything specific that you would like for me to address at this point? If you think of something, interrupt me. Anybody? Yes, sir. Yeah, it has. So inflation has really affected Thailand. When we went to Thailand our first time for the, what is it called? When we visited to view the field? Survey, yes, thank you. Yes, survey. For our survey trip, um, everything there was super cheap. We remember that. We're like, oh, wow, food here is cheap. You buy a Coke, it's cheap. You get gas, it's cheap. Everything was cheap. And we've come back to America now after living there for 4 years, and we're like, wow, everything in America is so cheap. You can get like a bag of carrots for like $1. Oh, celery for 89 cents, and avocados only 79 cents. Gas is 2 something. This is amazing. I can't believe. Like we're like, our minds are blown. Now houses are expensive. What was this house down the street? 330. They want 330,000. So that's crazy. So housing is out of control here, but just as far as the general cost of living stuff, yeah, there's been some serious inflation in Thailand, and just about everything that we like in Thailand is super expensive, is crazy expensive. And the things that we aren't super thrilled with, which would be like traditional Thai food, which is basically just eating white rice with like a little bit of sauce and meat on it, you can get that for relatively cheap because rice is cheap, right? So, but gas is like over $5 a gallon, $5.50 a gallon, something like that. Rent is still okay, but the prices have gone up. Power, water, all of those things have all gone they've like doubled in the time that we've been there. So, but we're not worried about it. I mean, the Lord will provide. The Lord will provide everything that we need. But I think probably it's hit its peak, and Thailand basically destroyed their economy by shutting down tourism during COVID. They closed the country for 2 years, and their economy is like they grow rice and they have tourism, and that's it. And so they continued with the agriculture, but they lost the entire tourism industry, and they haven't been able to get it back. Like, I think people were hoping that it would snap right back after COVID, all the COVID stuff went away, and people they don't want to come anymore. And a lot of it has to do with China. A lot of their tourists were Chinese, and China is actually hindering its own people from leaving China as much as it possibly can at this point. And so there's a lot of problems with Chinese tourists that Thailand is experiencing. So the country's not doing well, and inflation is up, so everybody's complaining. So what does that mean? What does that mean, right? Because that's a really important question, and I know you're asking that because you have missionary experience. There are things that need to happen in countries for social change. And by social change, I mean something like people deciding to change their religion. In Thailand has historically had nothing that would cause people to have any reason to change their society. Like, that society has been the same for like 1,000 years. And only now, with all of this COVID and inflation and stuff like that, there's beginning to be social unrest. And so what there is there can be either things that will push people away from their traditional roots and into, say, new religions. And this can be bad too, because people can go into false religion. Like, you can have people pushed into Islam because Islam comes to town and they say, we'll kill you if you don't convert. Catholicism did that in the past too. Okay, so that can be bad, but there could also be pulls that pull you away and pull you to. So this would be people who are like, look, we've been doing it this way, things are not going good, but if we go over this way, then we can do better. And so from my point of view, then I've got to be that person who is either pushing people, say Thai Christians, to go out and evangelize so that they can capitalize on the feelings of discontent and the questions, why is everything going so wrong, things like that, and provide answers, which is the gospel, and provide the gospel for people. Or we need to be pulling on people too, and a lot of this is just determined by the Lord. The Lord uses this to do that, and then pull people away or out of their false religion to the truth, and things like that. So Thailand, and I've been saying this for years, I felt like this is how it is. Thailand is just primed and ready for an awakening, for a great awakening. It just needs just like a little kick, and a fire can start, and it can just blow up. And that can be dangerous because you can't control it, right? So you never know what's going to happen. And one of the biggest problems I know, I heard, it was a different missionary from Peru said that one of the things that happens is the Baptists will evangelize the lost, and the Pentecostals will evangelize the Baptists. So you've got to be careful. It's great when you have all of this, people new to the faith, that are people that are getting saved, that the Lord has this great awakening and stuff, and we're like, oh yeah, we as Baptists, we're going out and we're preaching the truth and stuff. But then people get led astray by wolves sometimes, unfortunately. So you got to be careful with that. But great question. So I got about 15 minutes. If that's okay, 3 things I learned in Thailand. So here's one of the things that's really important. There is no concept of forgiveness in Thai culture. No concept of forgiveness. Now, does this mean that they don't forgive? It does mean that they forgive, but not like how we understand it. Their concept of forgiveness is not the same as ours. Like, again, very simple. Say somebody does something that offends me, and I'm really offended. What am I supposed to do? Well, the Bible makes very clear. I talk to him. I'm like, look, brother, that was not cool. You shouldn't have done that and stuff. And then what is he going to do? Well, he's either going to be like, no, you're a jerk, get lost, right? Which hopefully that doesn't happen. Or he's going to be like, oh, I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean to do that and stuff. It's like, okay, no problem, man. I forgive you. And it's fine, right? Boom. You have problems in relationships. You work it out. You're forgiven. And you just move on like nothing ever happened, right? That concept seems so easy for us and like second nature because we're Christians and we live in a Christian culture. They don't have that in Thailand. So what does that mean? Well, think of all of the bitterness and resentment that must build up because you don't even have a mechanism to say forgive people. You just have to kind of like avoid them in a way. Like, man, that guy did bad and stuff like that, and I'm going to have a grudge and I'm going to remember it forever, but I'll pretend like I like him. And that's pretty much what happens. But when Pastor Holty picked me, they're two-faced. They're just two-faced. And so imagine families, you've got these big families, and the families are very close, and they have lots of principles on this, but so-and-so did this to so-and-so when they were, 10 years old, and so-and-so did this, and this is, and so you've got all of this tension that you just kind of have to pretend is not there, and there's never any actual forgiveness in that regard. And so I found out about this because we were going to in culture class. Obviously you learn Thai, you have to learn the culture too, and the culture classes have been very beneficial for us. And we went and visited this. It's called a Wat, which is a temple. We visited this temple, and on this temple is this huge building, like bigger than this building. It had on one side of the building, outside, like on the back of the building, it had this giant carved relief on the back of it. And so it was this picture that was carved into the back of this building. And of course, they're very big into idols, pictures, paintings, sculptures, all of that stuff. They worship idols and stuff there. It's terrible. And in this relief, we had about 30 people in this class. Most of them were Westerners. There was a couple of Chinese people. And the teacher who was Thai, she spoke English and Thai. She was going through it. She was showing this off to us. And everyone's like trying to be all, impressed. Like, ooh, ah, and stuff, right? And I'm looking at this. And this picture, it had a picture of hell. And hell was kind of displayed, was imagined as like a frying pan sitting on the fire. And so people are in the frying pan, frying in hell. But the really bad people are out in the fire. And then even people that are worse than that, they're actually transformed into whatever sin it was that they did in their life. Because you got to remember, Thai people, they do have a concept of heaven and hell and sin and things like that. It's not the same as ours, but it's close. And so you've got people that are like half chicken, half man, that are being killed over and over in hell because they killed chickens in their life, and so that's their punishment. And hell is basically purgatory to the Thai people. You go there, you pay for your sins for however long it is, and then you get out. And so this picture then had a picture of a ladder out of hell, and there's like a forest with these other people who you could imagine are like saints, like looking on, like trying to help you get out of hell, or trying to navigate through the forest of your consciousness or whatever it is. And standing on the ladder is Buddha. And Buddha is the one who points the way to heaven, and then there's heaven. And the way to get to heaven is through following the 8-way path that Buddha taught. And so in the Thai understanding, you can die and go to hell and then work your way out of it. And then from any point after you've gotten out of hell, you can be reincarnated into a new life, right? And you're just born as a new person on earth. And of course, they believe in reincarnation and all that. Or you can make it all the way to heaven, but then you can still be reborn even from heaven, even if you're in heaven. And so the goal, the ultimate goal of the Buddhist, of the Thai person, is to escape this cycle. They want to escape this cycle, and they escape this cycle by becoming nothing. You have to cease existing, and you escape the cycle. You don't exist anymore, and then you don't suffer. You don't have desires. You don't have anything like that. They see it as a good thing. I don't know why, but that's what they do. So anyway, we're looking at this relief, and everyone's oohing and awing, and she's pointing out, look, there's the chicken people. This is hell. This symbolizes this, and there's Buddha. He symbolizes the Eightfold Way, and this is this and stuff. And people are asking questions, well, what's that? And what's that? What's that? And, I just took a step back, and I prayed, and I was like, Lord, help me to understand what exactly this is that's going on, and help me to ask the right question. And it just came to me all of a sudden. And so I went and I asked the teacher, I'm like, okay, well, this is great. That's all of the symbolism, this stuff. But where is the concept of forgiveness? And she was like, what? There's no forgiveness. You have to work your way. You have to work your way up. And it was so weird because, again, we had about 30, Westerners from Europe, America, stuff like that. And as soon as she said there is no forgiveness, like all of their enthusiasm, it was like we were outside, so we weren't in a room, but it was like all the air went out of the room. You know what I'm saying? They're like, all of their enthusiasm, all of their interest and stuff like that was like, they lost it. Like, there's no forgiveness. How can you have a religion without forgiveness, And so it was really, really weird. But you can see the difference. And it's, maybe like as an American, before I ever spent any time in Thailand or living in another country, I didn't have any point of view to think about how great America is, what's good about America, why are other countries the way that they are, why do other countries lag behind America in terms of their prosperity or their creativeness, their ability to innovate and things like that. And after living in Thailand, I see what it is now. It is the religion, because religion is what underpins culture. And then from culture then you can go on into doing all sorts of stuff. And if you lack something as basic as forgiveness in your religion, your society is going to lack. You're going to lack, and you're going to have lots of problems. You're not going to be able to overcome the things that you need to do to be able to innovate, to build, say, technology and stuff. And so America had the right foundation and the right opportunity. That's why America is so great today, because we had our founders were Christians, to a certain degree, and built a Christian nation, and that allowed for America to become this great nation. So contrast that with Thailand. And this religion, which is basically incomplete, which doesn't provide for the spiritual needs of the people, and their best bet is, well, you're just going to die and you'll get reincarnated and maybe you'll get another chance, you'll have a better life. It doesn't matter whatever you do. You're just going to die anyway. You'll spend your time in hell or whatever, or maybe you won't. Or, so you can see that there's, when you look down at the different cultures and you're able to assess them in this way and compare and contrast, you can see how important these things are and how fortunate we are as Americans to have a Christian foundation And so it really is the entire reason why America is the way it is and Thailand, for example, is the way that it is. Okay, I've got 5 minutes and 2 more things, so let's go through these really quickly. The second thing I learned was Grangjai. Grangjai, it can be roughly translated into consideration, and this is incredible. I still probably don't understand this right, okay? I'm going to be honest with you. This is such a weird thing. So Grangjai is kind of like this. Let's say I am a student taking Thai, I'm a student at a classmate with you, right? I'm a student somewhere and I'm a classmate with you. And you live over 10 miles away. And I live right close next to you. And normally I take the bus to go home. You have a car, okay? And so so I would have to like go wait for the bus. It'll take me 2 hours to get home or something like that. But you can drive home. You can be there in 10 minutes or whatever. So you realize that. You will then offer, hey, after class, do you want to ride? You live just right by my house. I can take you there. Because of Grangjai, or this concept of consideration, you don't want to bother people, I have to say no. I will say no. I will turn that down flat. No, I don't want to go. And so this person then knows, if you know the culture, if you don't know the culture, you'd be like, okay, you're weird, and leave, right? Which is what I would do, which is what I had to do a lot of times, because I would never understand why, though I would offer things, people would just turn you down flat. So the person with the car then has to press. Oh, no, really, it's no problem at all. It's no inconvenience. Why don't you, I can give you a ride. You can go, and I can just drop you right off. No problem. They'll still say no. No. And it usually takes at least 3 times of pressing this point before finally the person who actually really does want the ride and really wants to go, and it's really super convenient, and they're more than happy to do that. But because of this Grangjai, or this consideration, they feel obligated to say no. They'll finally cave, and they'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, that's fine. I'll do that. And so this sort of thing is so ingrained in the people there that even the Christians follow this sort of rule of Grangjai. And so Pone was the one who I learned Thai with, was one of the ones who taught me the most about this. And this was kind of the funniest story about it, like, because I'm, what am I? I'm 42 years old. He's like in his 30s. And age is everything there. They're a status society, so again, very familial. So the person who's the oldest is the most respected, and the person who's the youngest is the bottom of the barrel, right? And the younger person basically has to serve the older people to give you kind of a basic idea. It's more complicated than that, but that's basically it. And so anytime I would do something for Pone, like buy him a meal or, drive or something like that, he would feel terrible. He would always feel terrible about it. And he would always tell me, like, oh man, I don't want to be inconsiderate. I just don't want to be inconsiderate. He would use that word, Grangjai. It's like, I don't want to be inconsiderate. I'm like, don't worry about it, man. I don't care about that stuff. Like, I'm American. I don't even know what you're talking about. And so it took me years with him to figure out, like, because he would like decline stuff that's like really weird. Like, here, do you want this? Like, no. Like, okay, I guess he doesn't, like I'd have to figure stuff out. And so finally, the thing that was the absolute best about this Grangjai thing was we would go up north, and you guys know Paul Brown, right? Paul Brown, he's got a ministry about 3 hours north of us, and I'll go up there and visit him several times a year. I try to visit him once a month if possible. And Pone would sometimes come with me. And so we'd drive up there, and I would drive. And the van that we have is a stick. And so I would drive, and we'd drive all the way up through the mountains, and you got to come back down the mountains. It's about a 3-hour drive when I drive. And so he couldn't drive a stick, so he couldn't drive. Well, his car broke, and he ended up borrowing another car, which was a stick, and so he was forced to learn how to drive a stick. Now, he would never ask if he could just learn to drive on my car because of Grangjai, because he doesn't want to be inconsiderate, right? Because I'm older than him. And it's like, these sort of things, it's like, it's so silly. Like, it so limits them. It so limits their ability to do things, to learn things and stuff. Anyway, so he finally learned how to drive a stick, and he's like, I can drive. Let me drive, right? And so he was like so happy and so excited to drive. I'm like, all right, fine, go ahead and you can drive. And so we drove up there to go and visit him. And it took us, normally when I drive, it takes us 3 hours. It took us 5 hours to get up there. It took us 5 hours. And and so we get up there and he's like, oh man, I'm so happy that I was able to drive, and you've driven every other time, and I was so I'm thinking to myself like, oh man, I wish I would have just drove and we would have been here 2 hours earlier. But at least he felt good about himself, right? And so in that regard, it was a good thing. So, all right, so we're pretty much out of time. The last thing I wanted to talk about was how difficult the Thai language is, and the Thai language is incredibly difficult. There's basically nothing that's the same with English. Almost every word that we would use in normal conversation, like the way that we structure our sentences and stuff, is different. So like, let's see, what would be something I want to say like, say I want to say something along the lines of Jesus saves. You need to believe in Jesus, right? Jesus saves. You need to believe in Jesus. If I were to directly translate that into Thai, they would have no idea what I'm talking about. It would make no sense at all. So not only do I have to so I can't just know the words and then translate them English into Thai, because it doesn't make any sense. I have to know how to form that thought into Thai and then say it. Now, there's another problem with that. They don't understand Christian terminology at all. There is no foundation for it. So we say Jesus saves, we all immediately know all this theology, like poof, just pops into our heads. We understand about the atonement on the cross, and he died for our sins, all this stuff, right? They have no foundation, nothing at all. So even just something as simple as that requires a ton of explanation. But say I want to talk with somebody about just like basic things, like say I'm running late. Somebody calls me. They're like, hey, where are you at? I thought we were meeting at this time, and I'm running late. What would you say? Okay, I'm coming, right? I'm coming. They don't say I'm coming. I have to say I'm going, because of the way that they see come and go as different. It's a different perspective than that. And that's just one example of dozens of reading. I found is one of the best ways for me to learn a language. And so I spent a ton of time listening, because listening was my weakest skill. And so I thought, I will listen and listen and listen and listen. I wouldn't learn anything. I wouldn't get anything. I would get nothing out of it. And so finally I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to just switch to reading, which I figure was my best skill. And then it was like my vocab just was like, boom, just exploded. And almost all of it came from just reading the Bible. And so reading the Bible has been a huge blessing once I finally learned enough of the language to be able to read it and read it with understanding. But when I first started reading the Thai Bible, I would go through, I'd read one chapter, and I'd write down all the words I didn't know. And I would have notebooks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages of vocab, right? So probably 15 words per page, something like that. And then, so you're talking like 60, 70, 80 words a chapter. And then I'd have to go through and learn them. And then the next day, the next week, then it was 1 or 2, or it was 1 or 2 pages. And then the next week it was 1 page. And so finally, I got to a point where I could read an entire chapter, and there's maybe like one word that I'm not sure what it is, but I'm able to guess what it means from the context. And so praise the Lord for that. He really helped me a lot in those regards. And so just one more quick thing. When we left to go to Thailand, we set the date, January 20th, 2020. We really wanted to be there at that time. That was 18 months of deputation, which was stupid, okay? Should never do that. That's too fast nowadays. There was a time you could do 18 months of deputation. Can't do it today. And so, but we felt pressed by the Lord to get there, right? And so we were going to wait 6 more months. My wife and I, we talked about it, we prayed about it. We're like, let's wait 6 more months. Instead of going January, we'll go June. We'll buy the plane tickets. Everything will be fine. And we'll get 6 more months. We need the time to raise more support, because we only had like 50% of our support when we're getting ready to buy the plane tickets. So we pray about it for about a week, and both her and I are like, look, we've just got to go in January. We got to buy the plane tickets for January. She felt that's what the Lord wanted. I felt that's what the Lord wanted. We're like, all right, bought the plane tickets. And in those last few months, our support went from like less than 50% to 100% by the day that we left. We left in January, right? We get on the field January 2020. Does anybody know what happened a couple months later in 2020? Yeah, anybody remember? COVID hit. If we would not have left and gotten there in January, when we did, we would have never made it. They closed the country. We would have not been able to get in. all of our meetings would have been canceled anyway. Even, we would have wanted to do more meetings into June. And so we've really seen that as God's providential blessing and leading in our ministry to get us there, and that we were able to stay in the country for 4 years. And normally you're not supposed to be able to stay in the country for 4 years on an education visa. So we got 4 years on an education visa, which was incredibly unusual, of course, because of the situation. And one other quick thing now, here we are going back to start basically our first real term, and visas have become a huge issue. And we were told that it's impossible to get a visa. You cannot get a visa out of America. If you're an American and you go to America and you apply for the type of visa that you want to get, that we wanted to get, you cannot get it. It is impossible. The government has set up something where the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. This person is asking for some paperwork that this person says it's illegal for them to issue, so you can't get it. So what did we do? We prayed about it. Lord, look, you have got to get us these visas. If we don't get these visas, we're going to be tied down. We're not going to be able to do what it is that you called us to do. And so we got on the phone. We talked to everybody. We're like, look, you've got to get us this paper, this impossible paper. You've got to make it happen. They're like, we can't. It's impossible. I'm like, I don't know. I'm praying about it. Like, send me something. And so we finally talked to one of our good friends there. And he got off the phone, called the lawyer. Within 5 minutes, the lawyer sent us the paper. 5 minutes. The impossible cannot get it. We talked to all these different foundations, all these people. 5 minutes, she sent it. We submitted that paper, and praise the Lord, they approved our visas within 2 days. And so we got what we needed. We got the impossible visa that is not, you cannot get it. Other missionaries have been turned down and stuff. And so we're going back, and we've got the absolute best visa to be able to do what it is that the Lord wants us to do. And we can now renew them indefinitely and basically live in the country as long as the Lord will have us there. So, it's just, like I said, it's amazing what the Lord does. He answers all the prayers. He does everything, and he opens the door. And if he doesn't, we don't go. If he doesn't provide, we don't do it. But he has been, and so we've been able to do that. So thank you so much.